podcast where we help you go from fed up to faith fueled, helping you to become the wise divine women that you've been called to be. Today, I have Kristin Oja, and she is the busy mom of three and entrepreneur, founder of many great things, especially Stat Wellness. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dana. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. So, tell me about yourself, where you are, what fantastic things are happening in your world today.
Absolutely. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now. We have 8 Stat Wellness locations in the Southeast. And I've got 3 little kids, as you mentioned. So I have a 6-month-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And we are really just on a mission to redefine healthcare. We're trying to put the emphasis back in health. I always talk about in the United States, we've done a really great job of helping people live longer, which is awesome. We have some of the best advancements when it comes to medicine and surgeries. And if I ever get diagnosed with cancer, we've got a lot of great advancements in the treatment space.
Yeah.
Where I feel like we're really lacking as a society is on the preventative side, on the longevity side, and recognizing that the absence of disease is not health. And we sometimes wait till people are sick enough for treatment. And so, what I'm up to right now is how do I redefine healthcare? How do we become the trusted wellness ecosystem? Because that word wellness used to mean so much more, in my opinion, than it does now. Wellness is $1 trillion industry, and you can almost see a wellness practice on every corner. And so, I always say, like, we're on a quest to do a lot of things: transform medicine, redefine healthcare, but also help people understand what wellness truly is and maintain a lifestyle medicine based approach to care. And we do dabble in hormone replacement therapy and supplements and peptides, but we think of those as the cherry on top,
Yeah.
right? So the root is the lifestyle. So I feel like I'm just a determined mom to just keep chugging forward, and we'll see what happens. But we're having fun doing it, and I couldn't do it without an amazing team. We started with one person, and now we have almost 100 employees. So we're scaling, we're growing, we're in the throes of it, and just living in alignment and purpose.
I think it's amazing because it's such a needed aspect of things. And it is trying to, for women, it's hard to find what you need. You have these goals set in mind of what you want. You sort of know what longevity looks like, trying to reach out to the different people and understand, like, I don't feel well, but my blood work's okay. And that's where your aspect in that pillar of medicine is essential to sort of understand, interpret differently, offer different testing, and I love that approach. It is hard for people to find something that meets their needs, and I'm I was on the website, so it's really great to look at all the different things which are necessary, I believe, in building foundational health,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And absolutely, peptides are not going to work or hormones are not going to work if you don't have a good understanding of yourself moving forward, right?
Exactly right. And it's funny because we opened in 2019, and when I went to go raise money to follow this venture, every single person told me it was never going to work. Who wants to go into a medical practice that has barbells?
Hmm.
And now 7 years later, I hope that people recognize that it can work. But there was no proof of concept. We were the first in the nation doing that. And to me, it was just the only way my brain could work. I was like, well, the more you move, the more muscle you have on your body, the longer you live. Like, it makes sense that you have barbells in a medical practice. And it's so funny because I talked to other people, and they were like, nobody's going to want to go to a medical practice that has barbells. It's going to be stinky in there. And it's so funny to see the world, how much it's evolved even since 2019 in the wellness space,
It's
right?
so true. So true. Exactly. And I love it because, once people grasp the concept, it'll be like, well, of course I only want to go to one location. I don't want to
Yes.
drive all over the place. Like, gas is expensive. Don't be silly. So yeah, I get it. Here in Canada, we have like a lot of the naturopathic clinics. We do have the different wellness hubs where they do have the different type of sort of osteopathic, manual, like,
Hmm.
physiotherapy or pelvic floor therapists, and the IV aspect is just new in the last couple of years, 3 years maybe, having that sort of mobile clinic outside of a naturopathic offering. So
Hmm.
it's necessary. It is so
Hmm.
necessary. And once I can just imagine, and by the rate of success of franchises or additional businesses, people want this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, they're just, I think, as women specifically, we're tired of going in and voicing concerns and being told everything is normal.
Yeah.
And, people feel like they'll use the term gaslit, right? Like I go in and all of a sudden I feel like it's not real, or maybe it is depression. Like maybe all
Hmm.
my symptoms are depression. I don't feel depressed, but I am tired, and I am exhausted and I can't focus as well. And I'm not enjoying the things I used to. And I challenge you to think differently about your symptoms or think differently about what's going on. Because I meet with people all the time and they'll tell me these stories. Well, they think it's depression, so they want to put me on Wellbutrin. And I'll say, well, maybe it is, or could it just be depletion? Are we just not sleeping well? Are we not recovering well? Are we not nourishing our body well? Are we lacking nutrients? Are we not doing things that fill us up? Are we just depleted? Because depletion and
Hmm.
depression can look very similar. And, once they hear that, I think they almost like perk up and they're like, oh, there's a different path than just taking this antidepressant for the rest of my
Right.
life. And I just encourage people, I'm like, yes, what you do with your lifestyle, I don't care who it is that's ever told you it doesn't make a difference, because every day I meet with someone that gets told it's not going to make a difference. Sure, do it. It's not going to make a difference. Your lifestyle is it's what's going to make the biggest difference in your health outcomes. It's what you do consistently that's going to make the biggest impact. And like, yes, you may need medications, and I don't want you to feel bad if you do. And there's there's a lot of advancements again that we believe in. But I meet with patients. I had a patient with Crohn's that I was meeting with a couple weeks ago. And I was asking her about her diet and I wanted to start tweaking it. Crohn's is an inflammatory bowel process. And she was like, well, I talked to my GI about that. And they said that my diet isn't going to impact my Crohn's. And I was like, I just have to
Terrible.
always like take a freeze because I'm like, okay, your gut, your small intestines is 25 feet long. Your large
Yeah.
intestines is about 5 feet long. So we have 30 feet of intestines going on. We eat hopefully 3 times a day, at least breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe a snack in there too. And that is what is going through our digestive tract all day long. And it's not going to impact inflammation in the gut lining. It just, so it will make a difference. And I think the hard thing is like a lot of the research in the United States, and I'm actually kind of interested in some of the Canadian research where you guys are at, but a lot of the the studies are done by big pharma, people that have money that need to show that their medication is safe and effective. And so there is not as many people researching a gluten-free diet or
Hmm.
we have enough research, I feel like, to say a Mediterranean diet is probably one of the best researched diets, but it's too hard. It's hard. It's expensive. There's not enough funds. But I encourage you. Like we have over 15,000 patients, and I absolutely know what you eat does make a difference. How you
It
sleep
does.
does make a difference in our health and longevity.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, understanding even food sensitivities or
Mhm.
removing things that are automatic triggers can be a really simple place to start,
Mhm.
right? Less is more when it comes to reducing inflammation in the colon. And it is it is very hard to say. Like, I think the big discussion lately has been celiac disease. And, they to get diagnosed, they have to eat so much. And I'm just like, that's going to be so painful. And then you have to recover from that. And I'm like, I get the necessary reason you want to have a diagnosis, but you're going to have to remove the food anyway. So just start with that, right?
Mhm.
I think getting back to simple things. So whether it is your chosen protein, whether it is just clean, right?
Mhm.
Organic vegetables or homegrown vegetables, things like that. Keeping things as simple as possible as it used to be is the best way to approach any sort of
Mhm.
intestinal inflammatory issue unless there's a sensitivity that is present. And sometimes it's even not having raw vegetables, right?
Mhm.
And even a discussion yesterday was about diet. And I'm like, okay, well, you have to have you have to breathe before, and you
Mhm.
have to chew your food, and you can't be running around all day and then expect to digest your food. So it's not just diet, it's a complexity of things that need to be approached, in my opinion, regardless of the diagnosis,
Mhm.
right?
And I
So it's it's mind body aspect of things. And honestly, even the for you having the sort of gym aspect and teaching people how to exercise correctly, I think is phenomenal,
Mhm.
right? I think it's amazing because most women have no idea They will not go to gyms. They don't want to lift weights. They don't understand the concept. So I think that's an incredible approach. What brought you to bring that into the stat wellness sphere?
Mhm. So I actually started as a personal trainer before I even went to college, and I loved it. I saw so many changes in my clients at the time as they got stronger. I saw mentally people improving, I saw them physically improving, I saw pain come down. I saw them accomplishing things they didn't think they could ever do. A push up on their toes or a squat again after knee issues.
Right.
And so I got so inspired by being people's cheerleader and encouraging them and helping them physically get stronger than they ever thought possible. And I know this thinking may sound black and white, but the longer I've done it, the more I believe it. The more muscle we maintain, the longer we live. Like it's been researched, we see it. And so when I think about this, and even now as a company, we've been around since 2019. I'm still constantly trying to figure out how do we coach people into understanding what strength training is for their body right now, right? Like what is true strength training? What is
Hmm. Hmm.
hypertrophy? How do we build muscle? What's the food that's required to build muscle? I know everybody's talking about protein right now, and protein's great, but you also need carbs. Like, how do we get people to understand that lifting 5 pounds at home, I'm glad you're moving your body, right? Like I want to encourage any form of movement that feels good, but it's going to be hard to build muscle with 5 pounds at home.
Right.
And so, we're constantly looking at it, but the model really started from my background as a personal trainer and seeing the impact that had on people's longevity and their mental health, their physical health, all of those things. And then I knew that wasn't enough, right? So in our business model, we also have unlimited health coaching and dietitian consults, and we have physical therapy. So like I recognize it's not just strength training and then all of a sudden you're a different version of yourself, right? It's all of it. Everything that we talk about on the foundation. It's also sometimes I tell people physically they could not have a better lifestyle. And I'm like, hey, throw the wearable out. You are stressed out and obsessing, right? Like,
Yeah.
so when you were bringing up, nutrition and the gut and like all of this, I think it's really important to recognize each of our root issues is so different. We could have the same symptom, but the cause of that symptom could be different. And it all matters. And I have zero expectations that all of these lifestyle variables are like 100% perfect because they're never going to be. I always
No.
envision these as like the knobs on a stove. It's like, you usually have a season of life where you're like fired up in a couple of the places and you might be really low on some of the others. And I'm like, just having the intention behind it and recognizing like, you know what, I've been doing a really awesome job exercising. I'm like giving myself a pat on the back, but I'm not getting enough sleep because I'm waking up so early and I'm staying up late. So like, over this next month, I really want to start to focus on my sleep hygiene and get to bed earlier, right? Then maybe you're in a season of life where you're like, okay, I'm like exercising and sleeping pretty great, but I haven't seen friends in like a month.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that piece is like, now I got to start like pouring into those social relationships. So, as we're talking about all of this, and it's also individualized and it's also personalized and we're all different. I think what I find over these years is just take time to pay attention to how you feel. What's the right thing for you? We are all different. So if you have a neighbor that feels great intermittent fasting, but you don't, that you're two different people, right? So pay attention to your own body and have, the intention behind the change.
Hmm.
Because sometimes when I meet with people, and I think we live in, I like to say full seasons, but busy, like people are just busy. When I sometimes sit down with them, I'm like, what makes you happy? They like pause and they're like, ooh, what
Big
does make me
question.
happy? And I'm like, man, I would think that's the easiest question I'm going to ask you
Right.
today.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard for women because it's a pull, especially in perimenopause, menopause, or post, right? It's this whole pull of what used to make you happy, or happiness was family and such, and now, or the career, and then those things flip. Empty nester, retirement, and it's all a renegotiation
Mhm.
of fitting everything in that you want to do, exhaustion, hormonal change, and then redefining yourself.
Mhm.
So it is, and I love having that opportunity one on one to create that unique plan for people. I'm sure you do as well, and I'm sure that's something that
Mhm.
you've poured into your staff as well. Is every single person in front of you is a unique plan, has a
Mhm.
unique purpose, has a unique journey in their longevity health.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I was going to say, I had this guest on my podcast, Dr. Deanna Minnick. I don't know if you know her, but she was talking about menopause, and she was talking about when you go through menopause, you almost get to like pull back the veil. Like you're
Mhm.
no longer the byproduct of your hormones up and down.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like such a beautiful way of thinking of menopause, because I feel like there's a lot of negative light around it of like, man, now I'm just like aging so fast, and I've lost my organic hormones and all of this. And the way she just presented it in a way of like, no, you're pulling back the veil and you're rediscovering who you are at baseline without the hormones going like this all month long. And so you talked about too, like it's an opportunity to rediscover yourself.
Yeah.
And the amount of clarity that a lot of my menopausal women have is amazing once they learn the things that make them feel good, right? Like once they get their hormones in a balanced state and they're exercising and eating in ways that make them feel good, they're like, man, I actually feel better now than I ever felt in my 30s. Like I've had so many women in their 50s, 60s, 70s that are like, I feel so much better now than I did in my 20s and 30s. And it's the intention. It's the
Right.
paying attention to you and learning your body, making the changes that are best for you, not your neighbor, right?
It's so true. That comparison aspect of things for women is hard. It's hard
Hmm.
to break from. So yeah, that's such a it's such a good thing to speak about because you want them to identify who they are, what their personal needs are, what's I always revert back to what really brings you joy,
Hmm.
right? Like what brings you joy? And or what do you feel you're passionate about? Because that again, as you said, gets redefined after we lose a bit of that hormones. And sometimes there's been a few different speakers out there is that they or doctors go back and say it's your puberty hormones, right? It's that
Hmm.
11 or 10-year-old hormone state. And I'm like, oh, I was terrible then. I was a sprat. Hope that's not the case, right? Can't
That's
imagine
fun. I
having that.
haven't heard about that.
Yeah, but so you sort of alluded into HRT or
Hmm.
bioidentical sort of aspect when women are approaching things. How are you finding that has changed for your medical approach with the black
Hmm.
box listing lifted?
So it's
And was
funny.
it
It's
always a discussion?
Yeah, I was gonna say for me in practice, I've been practicing in functional medicine since 2014. So,
Mhm.
over 12 years. And I've been using hormone replacement therapy for 12 years. So I think what's interesting to me is the people that were so against hormone replacement therapy when the black box warning was there, the black box warning got removed and now they're prescribers of it and they never took additional training or classes. And it's interesting. It's really interesting to me how much influence our guidelines or black box warnings play on prescribing. And for
Mhm.
me, I've always thought about, well, what's best for the patient in front of me? What's going on with
Right.
their labs? What's their health history? How are we giving these hormones? How are they metabolizing them? Like I've always asked those questions. I've always looked at each person differently. And I did have patients that I didn't think hormones were the best approach. And I did have patients that I felt like they do feel better on slightly higher hormones. It's
Right.
always been a very deep discussion. But now it's almost like the wild, wild west out there because so many people are now just throwing people on a patch and a progesterone and not monitoring levels because their infrastructure is not in place. And so,
Mhm.
me
Mhm.
personally, nothing has changed in my practice with the black box warning being removed. I think there's a lot less concern for my patients getting two different narratives, me saying I think hormones are safe for you and their, OBGYN saying they're not or whatever. We're all kind of
Yeah.
speaking the same language now, which is fun. Everybody's like, we think hormones are helpful and they are going to help you live longer. So I love that aspect. But me personally, my practice is the exact same as it's been
Yeah.
since 2014.
So as a functional, are you using sort of that Dutch approach
Hmm.
to looking at those pathways? To me, the pathways, even gut digestion, gut
Yes.
inflammation plays a big role. So understanding that, I think, is key for
Hmm.
hormone replacement. And that's where we start hearing all of these terrible stories of the, oh, it didn't work for me. It made me feel terrible. I didn't, I just went right off of it. And I believe that's because they didn't look at that big picture.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I think I see that a lot. We do a lot of Dutch testing. We also do lab core and we will
Yeah.
watch trends. And so we do both because not all of our patients are, either able or willing to buy the Dutch, twice a year,
Mhm.
which I would love. Anybody on hormone replacement therapy, if they're able to do it twice a year, is like my ideal. But
Yeah.
we also will look at labs and symptoms and things. But I also talk a lot about how our sex hormones are really one of the last hormones we should be balancing. And in my opinion, in my experience of working with women for so long, I'm like, you really want to balance your blood sugar, and then you really want to balance your adrenal glands and your thyroid, and then your sex hormones. And so I've also found that sometimes people just go straight to their sex hormones and their adrenals are just horrible. And so they're not going to A, feel better, or B, they're not going to have the right metabolites because of the way their
Right.
body is responding to the HRT. So I think I always talk to my patients, let's make sure your blood sugar looks good. Let's get a continuous glucose monitor on. Let's track that. Let's
Yeah.
look at your labs, your insulin, your A1C, your glucose. Then let's make sure your adrenals and your thyroid look great. And there's some people, and I actually don't know where I really stand. I think it varies depending on the person. But there is some people that are like, there is absolutely no point in doing sex hormones if your pregnenolone and DHEA are completely depleted. Like, I kind of am torn because it depends on the person. Some of my patients' adrenals have gotten really bad with perimenopause and menopause. So if you support those sex hormones and they sleep better, their adrenals get better. So, but I do think
Yeah.
it depends on the person in front of me, but I do think in general, you want to think about all of the hormones that impact those sex hormones. And sometimes they
Mhm.
need to be done in conjunction with each other. But it's not as simple as just start an estrogen and progesterone and everything in your body is going to be fixed. We're
Mhm.
complex beings.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very important. They have to understand the catalyst of depletion, which can be stress as a
Hmm.
trigger, right? Which then it's like the snowball, right? You get the stress, you get depletion of minerals and vitamins, and then the blood sugars, and
Hmm.
then lack of sleep, and then the thyroid goes off, and then it's just like this big r- snowball of things. It's hard to say which to come first, but you're right. You have to consider all the different elements
Hmm.
of really good core health, and that does step back to understanding that whole HPA access,
Hmm.
but you can't forget the gut either.
Hmm. I know. I know. And that's where it's to us like, I can't ever go back to like a traditional primary care model because I'm like, I spend over like an hour understanding your mom's pregnancy and the birth and your upbringing. And, I just had a patient the other day that when I was asking her through this whole timeline, she's like, nobody's asked me any of these questions. And it ultimately ended up coming up that her mom didn't say, I love you to her till she was 14 years old. She went
Oh,
from birth to 14 being told that, like, never told, I love you.
yeah.
I'm like, the fact that I'm the first person that's ever asked you about this and you're in your 40s, like, this is mind blowing to me, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't figure out the root cause or the right treatment or the right path for somebody without understanding their history and who they are. Our health is not a picture of what we ate last week and how we slept
No.
last week, right? It is our full upbringing. It's our mom's pregnancy. It's our delivery. It's how do we play outside? Did we get dirty? How many antibiotics were we on? What does our diet look like growing up? All of these things influence our vagus nerve and how we signal the world and our gut microbiome and our hormones. And it's just I always tell people when they come and join us, I was like, listen, I know functional medicine it's a hard form of medicine. It's really challenging. Our providers, it's a lot. It's really hard. It's so purposeful, so impactful, so humbling, so rewarding, all of those things. But it's a hard form of medicine. And I tell them though, I hope you never want to do anything else because you can't. Like once you go functional medicine, you cannot go back into another form of medicine. Your mind knows too much and you have too many follow-up questions to ever go back to a traditional model.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's one of the things I try and get the clients to, and even women I talk to. I work with a company in New Jersey as well. So it's this sense of they don't, they never get anything answered.
Mhm.
And I said, that's okay. That's why you need to find somebody else in a functional scheme or from a naturopathic point of view, or, learn how to advocate for yourself and ask the key questions and investigate. So I get it because it's like, okay, so what can I ask and what questions do I want, and
Mhm.
being a little more precise, but there's always the why. Well, why is it like that?
Yep.
Right? And what can I do to help that? So it really is teaching us now to step back, right?
Mhm.
And not be so reliant on a system that can't answer those questions for us. They are trained, they're amazing, they're excellent for certain things. And
Mhm.
that's not just the the why. What can I do to repair it, right?
Mhm. Well, and people, they're so much more knowledgeable now than they've ever been when it comes to their
Right.
health. And you've got ChatGPT and Gemini and all these other AI tools that people have this health companion to ask questions to. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it's like me with mechanics. I don't have the same interest to learn how a car works
Right.
as I do with how the body works. But if I go in and they tell me it needs a new piece, I don't even know what follow-up questions to ask because I know
Hmm.
nothing about an engine. I know nothing about a car. So you tell me it needs it, I believe you. That was the old medical model, right? Like we didn't understand how our body worked. We didn't understand what was going on. We didn't even know what questions to ask. They told us to take something, we took it, right? This is, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And slowly since then, we're starting to see like we do know what questions to ask now, and we are going to challenge you. And we're not just going to take your word for what it is. We're going to research on our own, and we're going to come back. And my patients come in, they're like, I'm so sorry. I printed this like list from ChatGPT and highlighted I'm like, why do you feel bad? The more knowledgeable you are about your own
Exactly.
body and the more questions you ask, the more fruitful our conversation is. If you work with someone that's intimidated by you going on and researching how your body works, like I personally would find another provider.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love the direction. There's a lot of aspects of healthcare right now that I love. And there's of course a lot of things about it that I'm frustrated with. But I think that's one is that our consumers are very well informed and
Hmm.
they're wearing wearables. They're starting to connect the dots on their own. They're starting to be like, I don't drink alcohol because I know my sleep's going to be poor.
Yeah.
They're seeing this real-time data that we've never had access to.
So on the website, you had this sort of biomatrix, uh, sort of pillar, or I don't know what else to call this little chapter in there.
Mhm.
Is that you're getting them coming in and doing their, like, let's say Hume, or they're doing their biometric scanning? Are you incorporating the Aura or the Garmin or
Mhm.
the all those things? And is it an app as well yet?
So we're in the middle of co-developing a platform technology. Right now, our system's pretty fragmented, just from a technology perspective. I always tell people like nobody comes to us for our technology; they come to us for the human aspect.
Right, right.
But we do, from a biometric perspective, we use the InBody to do a body composition, and we do that on every single person because we don't like to talk about the number on the scale ever. I like to tell
No.
people just ignore that, right? So the first thing we're going to do is like make sure do you have enough muscle mass? How's your visceral fat? How's your symmetry between the right and left side of your body? How's your basal metabolic rate? Some of the other like biometrics and things we do is VO2 max and RMR through the breath so we can know your resting metabolic rate. We can
Hmm.
know how your heart and your lungs are working together with the VO2 max. For longevity. Those are some of the like biometrics that we do. And we also look at all of their wearables. I always say we're agnostic right now. We don't have a partnership. We love all of them. So if you come in with the
Exactly.
Garmin, we're going to use it, the Aura, the Whoop, the Fitbit that just got bought by Google. We look at all of them and there's specific things I think are so critical for all of us to know. And the two
Right.
I always lean in on is HRV and deep sleep. So we talk a lot about deep sleep percent and HRV at Stat Wellness.
Yeah, I was going to
Um,
ask if you're utilizing that sort of heart math sort of
mhm.
philosophy with the HRV, right?
Mhm. Yeah, we love it. I think the problem is we're so used to chronic stress. And I'm talking a lot about the US because that's where I see my patients and that's where I live. But I think this is really a global issue. I don't think it's
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
US. I
If you're
think
stressed, we're stressed. They're stressed, you're stressed.
Yes. Well, and I think it's a lot of it, like when I really dig into it, I'm like, stress, I think, has really increased with the advent of smartphones. Like, I think just that smartphone, that connection, the social media, the
Yeah.
instant message, like the instant, like we're expected to respond back to people's text messages and their emails, and we have access to what's going on with work at every given moment. And, I think that is like part of the issue when it comes to stress, but there's a lot of other things going on, but we've normalized it. And that's to me where I love looking at an HRV, whether it's physical stress, emotional stress, whether the person's just physically not fit, they're not exercising. Like I can tell so much by looking at an HRV, and then you pair an HRV with a timeline, and I can give you some good recommendations just based on that, right? And a lot of my patients have no idea. They come in and their HRV is like 10 ms. I'm like, wow, like we are no variation between our heartbeats. Like that's not ideal, right?
No,
And I think
no.
there is a lot of question marks of what is optimal. And we know heart rate variability declines with age. We know women's are a little bit lower. But I always say, like, there are certain numbers we know are not good. And then you're also competing a bit with yourself and your own nervous system and cardiovascular fitness. So, how do we get
Right.
it up together? If you went from 20 when you started working with us to 45, that's amazing. right? That's huge improvements. And so we celebrate all those wins. But yeah, those are so important to us. And then we do a lot of lab testing, which we kind of lump into that. Some's direct to consumer. So we have people, all over the nation that just want to start learning the data. So they hear me talk about cortisol and DHEA, and they have opportunities to get their labs done and to look at their levels and start gathering the information and have a brick and mortar to go to if you need it. Because I've had so many friends that have done tests, Function Health, for example. I think it's a great way to get your own information. But I've had so many friends call me when they get their results back and being like, "Can I get in with stat? Like, I just found out I have a positive ANA. It's telling me I could have an autoimmune disease. I'm freaking out, and there's nobody to talk to."
Yeah, that's the
Absolutely.
unfortunate thing, right? You never
Come
have
in.
that follow-up.
Yes.
I find the same thing with other companies. So I'm a medical thermographer here in Ontario, and then I advise for another company in New Jersey, and it's always, and we are, the follow-up is the most important part of it,
Yes.
right? And it's funny, like the other companies don't follow up with it, and that, I mean, and so we get this blood work, and then we can't. What does it mean? Your doctor just
Mhm.
skims over it. You're perfectly fine.
I
So
know.
I get it. The follow-up and understanding and, reassurance from your perspective, even with your friends that had called up with autoimmune or that scare of
Mhm.
autoimmune, it's like stepping back and going through and chewing it and digesting the information and coming up with a plan of action,
Mhm.
which that is the most important thing, and that's why you've created, what you've
Mhm.
created.
Absolutely. And our favorite saying I always talk about is little by little, a little becomes a lot. And I think that's the
Mhm.
other piece. The more data that's out there, kind of closing that loop between like chat GPT and wearables and all of that is like the more data there is, the more options there is, the more
Right.
overwhelm there is, the more noise there is. And so I just tell people like it's the same thing I believe in life on every area, even running a business, even parenting. It's like, just keep taking steps forward. Like little changes over time is what's going to make the biggest difference. Do things that you can be consistent with. Don't
Right.
do these like crazy things that are, short-term fixes anywhere in life. And so my favorite saying is little by little, little becomes a lot. And I think that's a good reminder because even here, people listening to us talking are probably like, shoot, do I need a wearable? Now I need to get my body composition. I need to start strength training. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, let's just start by paying attention to how we feel during the day, what makes us feel better, what, as
Mhm.
you mentioned, brings us joy. I think that's one of the most important questions all of us can ask. Because at the end
Mhm.
of the day, I think about this all the time. If I had my health, but I didn't have my happiness or relationships, like how would you feel, right? Like you could
Probably the same.
physically,
Terrible.
yeah. You could physically have better energy, but if you're not having those connections and that like fullness in life and that purpose
Mhm.
and that drive and the joy. I tell people all the time, like, yes, you look at my life and it looks crazy and I'm scaling a business and a family and it's wild, but I'm living in alignment and I'm at very much internal peace. And I do my adrenal glands and I look at my own labs, and people have told me since I started, you're going to get burned out. You're going to get burned out. The amount of times people have told me that. And I was like, I really don't believe you get burned out when you're living in alignment and paying
Right.
attention to how you're doing, because
Right.
my external environment could be chaotic, but my internal environment could be completely calm and
Mhm.
peaceful. Because
Mhm.
and so I just think again, it's what is most important to me is that you're paying attention to how you feel, how you're doing, and you're making those small, simple changes over time. So, any of the
Absolutely.
listeners that are like, oh, shoot, I have this like huge list, just pick one thing. If you feel like you need to improve your sleep a little bit, start there. If you're not walking at all, start with taking a walk out in nature. It will
Mhm.
create a domino effect in a positive way. Like you were talking about that sand, the snowball that just keeps getting bigger when we get
Yep.
off. The same thing happens when we get on track too. It creates a bigger and bigger snowball.
Yep. The snowball is good or bad, right?
Yeah,
Like, little by little, it's still gonna make a big change, so it can be good
it's
or
true.
bad, and I love that, and I love how, I mean, people, it's funny that people don't even check in with themselves, so even
Mhm.
just when you're laying in bed and you're tensing the toes and releasing the toes or the feet, and you're kind of moving up the body, that still is an awareness of how you're doing, how do things feel, where is it stiff, or, how are things processing, and it's, again, I feel that people have really lost that sense of intuitiveness,
Mhm.
right? Understanding themselves and their own personal needs. That intuition, that gut instinct, I think has been lost. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that people are starting to return to that.
Mhm. Me too. And I think that that has been a common message is less, less, less. And the lot more language around the vagus nerve. I love the movement there
Yeah.
of, being busy isn't necessarily good, right? And, a lot of power is in the pause. And
Mhm.
we're very excited. We've been really doing a lot of research in the vagus nerve at STAT, and we brought up the HRV and all of that. And sometimes I tell my patients when they come in, I'm like, you know what, actually, like, I want you to do less. Like, that is my recommendation for you. It's okay to say no. We're
Yeah.
not going to add another supplement.
Yeah.
We're not, no, I don't want you to wear a CGM and start tracking your blood sugar. And no, and they come in with their spreadsheet and their notes, and I'm like, nope, I know you're going to hate this. You just spent money to come and see me. And what I'm going to tell you to do is like, I want you to do less. I want you to just put your legs up against the wall, and I want you to do some breath
Yeah.
work.
I was gonna say, you might like what when you're looking at their work and you're looking at their inflammatory markers and their cortisol and you
Hmm.
see a bit of that imbalance, are you initiating parasympathetic activity for
Hmm.
them, like the legs up a wall, yoga, breath
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
not lifting weights yet, but you're
Hmm.
still in the gym or it's still in that sort of movement mode, but
Hmm.
just a different direction.
Yeah, and it depends. And sometimes it it depends on the person in front of me because I
Yeah.
do think there's this big kind of push that I can't exercise because I'm burned out. And I always tell people it's not normally, and sometimes it's not just the exercise that got you burned out. So normally I can fix like five, six, seven things and still maintain exercise as part of your health and longevity, even if it is strength training, because it's normally multiple things. It's underfueling, it's not sleeping well, it's job stress, it's work stress, it's all these other variables. Sometimes it is like I work with marathon runners and triathletes, and like, yeah, I mean, like they are potentially overtraining in a season of life, and we can't fuel enough to match a 25-mile run, so there are times where I'm like, hey, we really need to decompress and work more just on parasympathetic. But my goal is of like, okay, well, how do we get a little bit of each of these pillars? And
Right.
so a lot of times what I spend time talking about is like, how do we habit stack and how do we elevate something we're already doing? So you mentioned like before meals. I think meals is a great time to do some of that really good vagus nerve breath work. Like make that exhale longer than the inhale.
Mhm.
Breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 6 or 8. Just do that for 2 minutes. It makes a huge difference in our digestion and in our nervous system. And you can take it with you anywhere. If I'm in the car
Mhm.
and all my 3 kids are like acting crazy and I start to feel my cortisol go up, I'm like, no, 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 no. There's going to be a point I'm going to miss this sound. Mindset
Mhm.
shift.
Mhm.
Now breath work change, right? Now my
Yeah.
body is responding to my environment in such a different way, even though my environment is the exact same, right? So I talk a lot about like habit stacking, and I talk a lot about how do we increase recovery versus decrease stress. So I view stress as a really good thing, both exercise, work, saying yes to the promotion, whatever it may be for the person in front of me. Stress
Yeah.
is what makes us better. Where I find we are just so far off as we don't focus on our recovery, and a lot of the gain is in the recovery. So that's where I spend a lot of time with my patients. And so some of them, like I've had so many people come in and they don't do they never get their heart rate up anymore because they feel like everything on social media is telling them that cardio has burned out their adrenals. And I think it's a variable, right? Cardio is stress on the body. So like what else is going on? Okay, you're intermittent fasting. You don't eat till 2 o'clock. You're
Yeah.
drinking 4 cups of coffee. Your job is stressful. Your relationship's not healthy, but now you're not exercising at all and you maintained all those other stressors in your bucket. I'm going to want to take a lot of those other stressors out and maintain the exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it depends on that person in front of you. Like
Yeah.
what is going on? What is the chaos of their life?
Hmm.
And again, is if it's I helping them identify what is out of balance in their life. And I
Hmm.
love how that you went back to that chaos in the car aspect. I've had my grandchildren all summer. So it's wonderful, wonderful. And it's like, thank goodness for, I think it's Miss Rachel, who's like, smell the roses, blow out the candles. So that has been the whole gist of it all summer. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you're acting up, I'm going to be like, smell the roses, blow out the candles. So
I
it's
love
so
that.
funny how that little simple act is again reminds someone at any age the importance of stepping back and breathing.
Yes.
So,
And another, I know my team like makes fun of me because again, my life is very full. So self-care since becoming a parent looks
yes.
different than what self-care used to look like, self-care in quotes. But I always look at like, okay, well, I shower. How do I elevate my shower experience? So I started putting essential oils and doing breath work, and
Mm.
I have a dimmer in my bathroom, which I love. So like I dim the lights. So my shower has become a kind of calming and relaxing and mindfulness experience because I was already showering. So my mind, because of time and efficiency, I'm like, how do I elevate the things I'm already doing? That's like step one. Like, I don't want to try to think of new things to add into my routine because how am I
No,
going to fit them in?
you're habit
Right.
stacking, but
Yeah.
you're habit stacking the shower, which I would have never thought of, right?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
everything. My team's like, why? You got to stop telling people that your shower is your self care. And I'm like, but it kind of is
It's
right now.
supposed to be. Yeah, it's supposed to be. Dim the lights, dry brush,
Oh,
you
all
know,
of it.
essential oils, and then for me, it's reminding. I always go back and remind women that their breasts are just important as their face. So
Yes.
it's this lavishing with oil, and their bodies, right? Lavish with oil, like Queen Esther. The concubines, that's all they did all day was lavish themselves in oil and get massages and all these things. So again, it's just this sort of treat the rest of the body as much as we treat the face and create those rituals, which are part of a deeper self-care aspect. And if it is dimming the lights and putting essential oils in your shower, then dang it, that's what we're doing, right? Absolutely.
Exactly right.
I love it. I love it. So I know that that little word of wisdom, the little by little, little brings a lot. What is another word of wisdom that you hold yourself true to?
Hmm, that's a great question. I mean, it goes, I know this is going to sound simple, but know your why. I go back to that question and like that all the time, and it's changing. It does change with different seasons of my life, and making sure then once I really am clear on my why, I'm writing down what I'm doing, and am I in alignment and does it match? So just my other thing I hear myself say all the time is little by little, little becomes a lot, and like know your why, and like deeply
Amazing.
feel an alignment with that because so many times, like when I've tried to do things that don't fit into that, is where a lot of my own frustrations come from. So,
Right.
an example of this is just like a cheesy example, but when I'm with my kids, I try to be present. But when something comes up with work and I'm trying to do work and they're trying to fight for my attention, I'm frustrated in both areas, right? I'm frustrated with work and I'm frustrated with my kids. But it's like, it's not their fault and it's not work's fault. I just didn't have the boundaries and alignment at that moment. So, I think it's just know your why. And I feel like people talk about that all the time, but people know what they do from day to day. They know how they do it. But I feel like very few people know why they do what they do each day.
Hmm.
And I think it's important.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So you have how many different locations now?
Eight. So we just opened our eighth one, really like what, 2 weeks ago?
Hmm.
Yeah, in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're in Atlanta, where we've got five in the Georgia area. And then we've got Charleston, Nashville, and Charlotte. So Tennessee, South
Amazing.
Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia.
And you're going
And
to
we're looking at
continue up
Canada.
the, pardon?
We're looking at Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very you have a few different places here, right? You've got the upstart of different IV places. We already had the naturopathic aspect of things, but it is hard. I think things are a little different in some places like that. And are you working your way up the eastern seaboard? Are you
Hmm.
able to go to New Jersey and New York yet?
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
we can go all over. So New York is a little bit tricky with
yeah.
laws. They're a little bit harder. So New Jersey is one we'd go to. But it's interesting. When we opened in Tennessee and Nashville, it's a 1 hour time change, which seems like nothing. I didn't even think about operationally. Our team works together collaboratively, and we have patients that go to different health coaches. And operationally, 1 hour like rocked us and still rocks us. I'm like, wait, which direction do I go? So I'm going to be staying in that Eastern time zone where I'm
Yeah.
at as long as possible because I have to call and verify I'm going the right direction when I
Yeah.
do anything on Central Time.
It's
It's
hard.
not my strength. It
Hmm.
is not my strength.
Hmm.
So yes, Chicago, I know is Central Time, but I love Chicago. So Chicago, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., we've looked at some spots there. Um, but yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So it's statwellness.com.
Mhm.
And I know that you're all over all the social media, Instagram and Facebook as well. So that is very exciting. We'll make sure that everyone knows that and can find you. I look forward to your New Jersey location so that I can start sending people there so that I have this assurance of things, right? I know what I expect to see when I'm looking at them and what I can think that they need, but it is finding those practitioners with that all encompassing focus as well. So
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for
thank
having
you.
me. This was a
Thank you,
wonderful
Kristin.
episode.
Yeah, amazing. Have an incredible day today. And thank everyone for joining us in Facebook and YouTube and in the future with the podcast itself. Have yourself an incredible day. And I hope the information today helped you gain a bit of wisdom and help you become more who you're meant to be. Thank you for